And I want you to tell us something about your dad. It can be serious or funny or whatever you think of, but something about your dad that you want to share with us. What was he like?
Nobody get off on a rant here.
Did he influence you in certain ways in your career?
Well, he certainly didn't much about the facts of life. Yeah, you know, my dad was, he didn't try to teach me much of anything. He's from that very laissez-faire generation where he just figured we'd figure it all out ourselves. But he was a great example to me socially. He often held opinions that were not popular at the dinner table or in the party, and he didn't back off of them. He didn't state them aggressively, but he didn't apologize for his opinions, even when they weren't what was in the room, you know, what would have really been the coin of the realm in that room or at that party. And he knew how to disagree in a way that was provocative and gentlemanly. And I really admired that about him. And he stood up for what he believed in, but in a very quiet way.
Okay. Michael?
Someone had actually asked me this earlier this evening, and I think the answer was, if I've learned anything from him, it was commitment in a certain way. That is, he was an only child, a nice, quiet Methodist boy who married into a group of insane Irish Catholic sisters, my mother being one of them, and he didn't know what he was in for. And they were all quite a handful, and when you got one, you got the whole bunch. And my dad, over the years, committed himself not only to my mother, but to her crazy sisters, and to my mother's mother when her health failed and she had to give up her home, and she came to live in our two-bedroom house in a working-class area of Chicago. And I really think he was in it for the long haul, and it was difficult, but I didn't hear a lot of complaint. There was a lot of drinking, but no. and he was a teetotaler as well, because he had come from a line of people who were not. And so I don't know how he took it all. I think, but it was commitment. He stayed through some pretty rough times in a very committed way.
All right, Reggie?
Well, my father was a Navy man, and he didn't have much tolerance for bull stuff, you know, and he taught me, he wasn't a patient man, so he taught me patience from being not patient, because he didn't understand the arts and things like that. I want to be an actor. He didn't understand any of that. You know, he wanted to, you know, he felt that somebody should have a job and, you know, be serious about that. And I always felt that I would prove him wrong by saying, you know, you can do that. You can, you know, who you want to be and whatnot. So, and I did. And before he passed away, he came to me and he said, "You made something of yourself, and I'm so proud of you." And that meant a lot to me, you know. So that's how it was.
All right, John? 'Cause your dad was an actor, right?
My dad is an actor, and my parents were divorced when I was 4. So, and my dad moved away to California to sort of take his career to the next stage, you know. And so I didn't see him for a very long period of time in my youth, but I remembered he had these leather zip-up Beatle boots. That I just loved, and I missed. You know, it was just this, you know, part of him that was so indelibly etched, you know, into me. And then when he finally moved back to New York to do a play, I visited him backstage, and I saw. And after he was putting on his shoes, and he wasn't putting on the Beatle boots. You know, it was, of course, it was 15 years later or whatever, and you know, it had been so long, and I realized, wow, I've got to get to know my dad. You know, I didn't really get to know him.
Right.
And what's been great as an actor is to earn his respect. You know, just straight up as an actor, and get to know the guy, who's a lovely, lovely man. You know, and I wish, you know, I'd gotten to be around him more as a kid. So.
Billy, tell us about your dad.
Well, I just told you a little bit.
Yeah, Not that.
Colorful
I think
guy.
that's enough. Yeah.
Let's get Bill. Let's
I have
go on.
another. I have a few of them.
All right.
My dad was from Kansas City, Missouri. He was devoted to his dad. He started. My grandfather started a hardwood lumber business. It was a wholesaler of hardwoods in the Midwest, and my dad went to work for his dad when he was 16. And my dad was. I never knew my grandfather. He died before I was born, but I know my dad was very devoted to him. And my dad is the person I measure everyone by. And I'm one of the luckiest guys I know because my dad will be 89 years old next month. And he's still my closest confidant. He's the person that gave me, I mean, when I told him I wanted to come out here and pursue a career, he was a little worried about that. But he was always supportive. But the thing I remember most about him, and I'm kind of, from hearing these other guys talk about their dads, was my dad is a great student of human nature. He was a lumber salesman, and he would come back from the road. He was always gone for 2 or 3 days. He'd always have great stories and great expressions, like the one I used earlier. And, but his thing was what he taught me was that, take time to talk to somebody. He's a natural interviewer. And, you're on a plane or you're on a bus, or we all end up in disparate groups in life. But, he'd always strike up a conversation and like, well, where are you from? Oh, yeah, I've been down that way. And he always got something from that exchange, and it was a nice thing. So I think my dad he was a great socialist in terms of being a social man who had a great humanity, and he still does. He still, if you meet my dad, he's putting you on stage. He's asking you where you're from.
Right.
Great guy. I'm sorry he's not here tonight.